In today's tutorial, I'm going to address how you can eliminate the seam lines when it comes to going in circles, especially when you see it on hats and any other projects. And I'm going to show you how to improvise on a pattern to make it your own, because this really bugs me like you have no idea. Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd as well as yarnspirations.com. I'm your host Mikey. Today we are going to talk about eliminating the seam lines when it comes to doing circles. And so we can always see that there is a seam line in a circle, and this is an amigurumi kangaroo. We have a tutorial on how to be able to do the baby and the mama, and this is really quite cool. But if you followed the same principles that you would see in a hat, you would always end up with the seam line that is so obvious that it would really bug you. So in looking at the amigurumi, there are no seam lines throughout this whole thing because of the way that we're doing it, and I apply that when I'm going to wear a hat for myself. So sometimes I follow the pattern as instructed from what the designer has asked me to do. But for me, if I was wearing it personally, because this really bothers me and having the seam line, I improvise, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So at this time, I've been crocheting 28 years and I still get the seam line in it. It's so obvious. It bothers me like you would not believe, like really bothers me. So what I like to do is that I like to go in a continuous spiral when I make hats, and I'm going to show you how I keep count, and I'm going to show you how I get started, because what I do is I improvise right in the center of the circle and then turn this into a spiral, and then I'll show you how to bring it back to a regular circle. And it's my own little trick to be able to do it, especially if you have yarn that is transitioning in color. You'll see that it will spiral around instead of just stopping, and then if there's a different color here, when you go to move up there, you can see that it has shifted up because of the seam line. So going in that continuous spiral is kind of like the way to be able to cheat the system, and that's what I prefer. So let's get started. Most of the hats usually have 12 stitches in the middle, and what I like to do at this point is that if there starts off and it has a ring, or it has like a chaining of 3 or 4, and it tells you to put 12 double crochets around the circle, even if there's 8 or 6, I just change the very start. So let me show you how I'm going to do that. So for my demonstration, I would like to show you how to do it so that you can avoid the seam. So what I like to do is I like to start off with the magic ring. So some people don't like magic rings. That's okay. Suck it up, buttercup. So what we have is that I like to leave an extra long string first, okay, and just let it fall into the front of your hand. Okay, so here's the string. So the yarn in behind is going to the ball. And what I want you to do is take out your 2 fingers, okay, and just wrap this over, and just turn your hand over and cross like so, okay, and I'm kind of pinching it with this finger. Stick the hook underneath the first string, grab the second string like this, okay, and just whirl it around and grab the string that's leading towards the yarn ball, okay, and just pull it through and it will lock it. Okay, so there is your magic ring. So this long string now will pull everything shut, and the reason for I left it long is that I want to put it into a darning needle afterward. So what I'm going to do is that, for example, say on this is like a hat that said that there was 12 in the ring, so 12 double crochets. So what I like to do is I like to start off and only put 6 single crochets into the ring. Make sure you put it up over top of these 2 strings. Okay, so we're just going to immediately start, and we're going to put 6 single crochet. So 1, 2, and 3, and my yarn string's a little bit, circle's a bit big, so I'm going to just narrow it down. So that was 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we have other tutorials on how to do magic rings in different sizes as well. So what I want to do is that I want to pull up on this yarn, and I want to grab another spare piece of string and stick it underneath the stitch where the loop is coming out of, and that'll signify to me when I'm going around in a complete circle. So I'm just going to pull it partially through like this. Okay, it's hanging out both ends. Put my hook back into the loop, and now grabbing the yarn strand like so, I want to pull it shut. So it just pulls that shut, and then just grab the string that's leading to the yarn ball. So what I like to do at the end of this is that I use this string, I put it through a darning needle and lock it into position, because magic rings can fall out. So now that we have signified where we have the stop and the start of or revolution, I immediately jump to the first stitch, and you can count back. So I did it 6, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what I like to do is that I like to start off and put 2 single crochets into that first one. So we got 1 and 2. And I like to count especially in the first round around. So I like to count that. So on the next one I'm going to put 2 as well. So I'm just going to double the size. So there's 2 in that one for 2. And the next one is, I'm going to say 3 and 3. And the next one is 4 and 4. Okay, the next one is 5 and 5. And the final one is the 6th one. You can see the stitch markers hanging out, and we do 6 and 6. So what I like to do at this point is that on the final one of the 6, stick your hook underneath and grab that stitch marker again and just pull it through, and that'll signify where the new ending is. So at this point I just start and I do the project as it's prescribed. So for example, at this point now there's 12 in here, just like there would be 12 in the center of this one. See, it looks almost the same size. And now I'm going to just immediately start up the next section. So the next section would say probably 1 double crochet in the next one, and then 2 double crochet and to the one after that. And so that will be the repeat pattern. So there'll be 2 in this one, and the next one will be 1. And it's just like growing a hat, but instead of slip stitching, you're going to be in a spiral. The next one will be 2, and I want to show you what happens when you get all the way back around. So there's 2 in that one, and there's 1 in the next one. So I do this for myself when I'm wearing a hat that I love to wear, because that seam line bothers me like crazy. So I like to do it this way so that I can get a complete spiral working all the way around, and I never can see any slip stitching within my hat. So you know me, I'm kind of ditzy, so I kind of like throw on my hat and I go out and I don't realize the seam line is in front of my forehead until somebody is very generous enough to tell me that. So I'm just going my 1 and 2. So the stitch marker is telling me when I'm all the way around. You can't really do this concept without that stitch marker, so don't be crazy and thinking that you can avoid it. It's really hard to tell once you get going on where the stop and start is. So the stopping one here, because I started off with 1 double crochet over here, the ending will be 2 double crochets just to keep it in stitch balance. Okay, so once I'm all the way around, the last one that I just put in, I'm going to move the stitch marker up and pull it through. And so I will find this stitch marker going out throughout my entire project. So what happens if I want to do a hat and I'm all the way down and I'm near the brim and I need to bring it back in balance? So all I just do is in the next 3 stitches, this is where I improvise, I will do a half double crochet in the next one. I will do a single crochet into the next one, and then a slip stitch into the final. And that'll bring it back in balance, like so. So yes, it's in a spiral, but this is very, very close to a circle, and I never have the slip stitch in my hat, and I can live with that. And that would be how I would do it in order to cheat the system, instead of having this slip stitching and having no slip stitching. Choice is up to you. That's what I would do. They don't usually have these kind of tips and patterns, but this is what I do when I have to wear something, so that I don't look like a geek when I wear it, because I already look like one even without it. So until next time, Mikey, on behalf of thecrochetcrowd.com, we'll see you.